Well, Proverbs chapter 2, as we continue on in this book, I'm so excited. In this chapter, we're going to learn more about wisdom and righteousness, those kinds of things, and following in the commandments of God, keeping his commandments, going the way that he wants us to go. So, some good insight and good things for us to learn. So, verse 1, my son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom, and applying thine ear to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord, and find the knowledge of God. So I want to just pause for a second here and look at this. Okay, again, using wisdom in female pronouns is important. Greek is Sophia, and so this is a very common trend we're going to see for a while, which I think is important. I think there's a lot of I really think the women have a lot to contribute to the gospel, and they're used not just they're literally in the scriptures, but women as a metaphor for the gospel and understanding are used in here as well, as understanding and with wisdom, as well as with representing the children of God, the followers of Christ, in the wedding ceremonies we're going to see in Isaiah and Jeremiah and things. So, ladies, there is a lot of wisdom you have, and your perspective is very important to God, according to how He has His scriptures read. So realize that you have some great understandings and insights that men do not have into understanding the gospel. And so I hope you think about that as we continue through Proverbs and through the rest of the Bible and the scriptures as well. You play a very important role. Always remember that. So let's continue on in this. So he's saying seek wisdom. Seek it as if you're seeking treasure. So a lot of people would love to be wealthy. A lot of people would love to have lots of money. And he's saying seek wisdom. Learn just as bad as you want wealth. That's an important thing to have. And he says in here in verse 5, thou shalt understand the fear of the Lord, or remember, the more you study the gospel, the more you study God, the more you will respect him and honor him and find the knowledge of God. So this is an important point. A lot of Christian philosophies have this idea that God is unknowable and that we can't ever attain his ideas or come to know him. And he's just unknowable and etheric, and we can't really deal with him. But yet Proverbs says we should know God. This Bible does tell us to know God, to study him and know him. So very important. In fact, verse 6, for the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. He layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. Now, of course, a buckler is a big round shield. If you ever watch medieval battles and you see somebody holding a big round wooden shield, that's a buckler. And so people who walk uprightly, people who are keeping the commandments, God will be a shield and a protection to them to help them against people who want to destroy them, basically. Verse 8, he keepeth the paths of judgment and preserveth the way of his saints. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and judgment and equity, yea, every good path. Very important point. I love this point. So great to understand that, everybody wants justice. Everybody wants justice. It's easy to see inequality in this world. It is easy to find those inequitable situations. And so we want justice, meaning we want to be righted or even moved ahead of other people. And what's fascinating is when you understand the principles of the gospel, you will understand how to administer those kinds of things. And I like that it didn't just say you'll understand how to judge others. It said you will understand judgment and equity. That means equity is not just following the law, that's justice. Equity means mercy. It means taking that opportunity to see it from both sides, to understand what really is going on and what really needs to happen to make this work out. So it's not about just getting it the way you want, it's about getting things done properly. And so mercy is actually in there. That's important for us to look at. Every good path, the more we understand the more righteousness, the more we understand how to live our life in a way that God would want us to. How can we improve our journey of life, the path that we are on, basically. Verse 10, when wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee. So again, this isn't about justice. This is about understanding when to apply certain things and when to give mercy, when to hold people accountable, when to work with people. That's discretion. So mercy is this dynamic. It's not all justice. It's this dynamic of understanding. Yes, we have to do it this way, but because of this, we're going to modify it a little bit because of mercy. Mercy does not rob justice either. Mercy helps us get justice met and still help us account for our problems and our insecurities and challenges as well. That's what the atonement is all about. So if you think about it, really, the more you understand the gospel, the more you will understand the atonement and how Christ can help you in your life. That's really what all this boils down to. So now verse 12, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things. So that's why you want discretion, is to learn good and evil, understand the difference, so that you aren't falling into snares of false teachings, false truths, those kinds of things. That's the froward things, basically. So if you want to understand what's going on in this world, you can spend your time understanding what this world's talking about, which is okay. But if you want a better way to do it, like what they're saying in Proverbs 2, study the gospel, and it will help you learn the principles of truth that you can then see the rest of the world with. It's like, think of it from a hermeneutic standpoint. The more you understand the gospel, the more you put gospel glasses on to see the world and to understand the world from God's perspective. So verse 13, who leaveth the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness. So this is referencing the people who are lying, people who are giving us falsehoods, that they leave the paths of righteousness and they go into dark ways. They who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and they froward in their paths. So these are the people you don't want to follow, basically. They're going in a way that delights in wickedness, delights in hurting other people and enriching themselves and those kinds of things. And so he says that those ways are crooked, they're froward in their paths, they're wrong. 16, so this is why you learn wisdom, to deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words. Now this is like an alien woman or an unchaste woman, was sometimes called a strange woman. So prostitution, those kinds of things as well. So those temptations. So discernment, know how to tell who is with you, and this, I think this is interesting that he brings this up with women, because this is probably dealing with flirting. And if you have a different opinion or understanding of this, I look forward to reading your comments about this. But it's like, when you're talking with a woman, how can you tell if a woman is flirting with you, if she really likes you, or if she is flirting with you to get her own agenda met? That can be hard. That's the kind of idea of what's the difference between a salesman and a con man? Intent. Same tactics, same strategies, but the intent behind it is what makes the difference. So discernment will help you understand whose intentions are truthful and honest and whose are not, basically. So the more we study, the more we learn the gospel, the more we can discern right from wrong. So if you're not studying the gospel, you may have a harder time seeing the difference between right and wrong. So be reading the scriptures all the time. So important these days. So now they're getting into understanding these types of people. The strange women basically says, verse 17, which forsaketh the guide of her youth, and forgetteth the covenant of her God. For her house inclineth unto death, and her paths unto the dead. None that go unto her return again, neither take they the hold of the paths of life. That thou mayest walk in the way of good men, keep the paths of the righteous. So he uses this metaphor of prostitution, of dealing with a treacherous woman, to understand that you can be lulled into a false sense of security and then run into a problem and realize it's too late. Oh my gosh, I went down the wrong rabbit hole. I'm stuck. This isn't going to be a good situation, basically. We think about this in Greek mythology with the sirens, beautiful women swimming around, looking beautiful and have songs that enchant the men, the sailors. And what do? They bring them to the boats. They get them off the boats. And they drag them down where the men drowned, and then they are consumed by the sirens. Or some of the philosophies are they're mermaids that are cannibals, and other ones. If you're a fan of Jason the Argonauts and some of those movies, that the sirens are the lures of a greater demon, a greater monster that lives under the ocean. It drags men down, and then that demon can eat them and feed on them. So this is this concept of watching for people. You can't tell initially if they have good intentions or not. So how we deal with this is we study the gospel more, understand the truth of the gospel, and that helps us in improving our discernment, so we don't get caught by these false people, these false things that are going on around us. Which I think, honestly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments what you think, I think the wisdom of this chapter is more applicable today than probably it has been in a long time. So if you agree, hit the like button, and let's continue on with this. Because now they're talking about the righteous, the people who have, you've got these two paths, the way of the two paths. You can go the wicked way, which looks great at first, but then goes bad. Or you can go the righteous way, basically. And he says in here, verse 21, for the upright shall dwell in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted out of it. So eventually the righteous will be exonerated by God, the wicked will be destroyed. So you get to choose the path you take. That's choice. That's what this is all about. So choose righteously what you're doing and study the gospel to help you in choosing better, making better choices, basically. So let's jump over to the next chapter to continue to learn more great wisdom.